Was there something in my walk, how I talk, giving off the wrong energy? Was there something in my stride, too much pride, telling you to back down? Slowly, slowly you became my enemy, but you can't seem to get enough of me. So if this is the last time, I guess I better make it worthwhile. Yeah, if this is the last time, I guess I better give it my all. So if this is the last time, I guess I better make it worthwhile. Yeah, if this is the last time, I guess I better give it my all. Was there something in my walk, how I talk, giving off the wrong energy? Was there something in my stride, too much pride, setting you to back down? Slowly, slowly you became my enemy, but you can't seem to get enough of me. So if this is the last time, I guess I better make it worthwhile. Yeah, if this is the last time, I guess I better give it my all. So if this is the last time, I guess I better make it worthwhile. Yeah, if this is the last time, I guess I better give it my all.
This is how we roll, man. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we roll, man. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we roll, man. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we roll, man. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we win, man. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we roll, man. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we roll. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we roll, man. This is how we rock.
Tries to hold on to the bottom. Here comes Giuseppe. They make contact. They touch once, twice, 3 times.
Trouble! Oh no, Rocky into the wall. Big crash front straightaway. Huge crash coming
go Rocky up and into the air.
They're beating and banging. Burn on the bottom, Cosman up top. I
think. No, Breyer by 1/1000th of a second. Joseph, no! At the line, Thunhorse pulls the win out at the stripe. Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Get your foot there. He got it. He's got it. He's got it. The canvas is going to win.
The first two rounds have made it clear who to look out for in the prototype and GT Pro classes. But GT Am remains a bit of a question mark. With a driver favorite up ahead, no doubt everyone is gearing up to try and claim a win at Road America. But let's find out who will as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on FDF.GG. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Bill Soup Zahn. And behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson. Now, we come here to Road America for a track that is going to give quite a bit more length around the lap time from what we saw last time out. 14 turns over 4 miles, one of the longest tracks in North America, actually. In fact, I think it does hold the record for the longest circuit here in the States currently. So it's going to be a difficult one. There's a lot of places to pass, but there's also a lot of places where things can go wrong quickly and the speeds are high with the barriers close at the sides. So watch out for some big wrecks out there today, especially in places such as the Kink and maybe even into Canada Corner, where the braking can be difficult down into that right-hander, even though it's a very popular place to try and make overtakes. We're in the final minute of qualifying here, and with the prototypes out on track, Nathan Olson holds the provisional pole with Dion Fiallo sitting in second place, but Jeffrey Ooms is less than 1/100th of a second off of that front row. So we'll see if actually, no, he won't be able to get back out there because I just see he parked it now. So looks like this might be down to being between Olson, Fiallo, and Darling here, Soup. This is not the most important track to have that track position, but always helps to have pole.
Yeah, well, maybe the Monter might have to do a little work. He's got 2 wins behind him, so see if it becomes a little harder for him to pick up 3. Joe, you talked about it. What a difference between where we were 2 weeks ago to where we are today as far as lap traffic is going to be. It was so small, such tight confines, a lot more room here. And, you know, we were clean last week, so if that's any indication, maybe this will be the rule, the example that breaks the rule. Maybe we're due for a messy one tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Go figure that we'd get some sort of reverse here as the clock now comes down to 0. So we're at the end of qualifying. Who's going to be the first to take that checkered flag? I think it is going to be, well, I lost track of off the final bit. Looks like Robert Tinsey in the number 82. He's down in 17th, still struggling with the latest incarnation here of Autobahn when he used to be taking win after win in this series. He's trying to improve on a 50.0 flat. Let's see if this will do it. No, he does not go quicker. From there, it's going to be Nathan Olson next across the line, our current pole sitter. And if he can make himself a little bit farther away from those chasing, I'm sure that'll make him feel a little bit better. But I do not see anybody until 7th place still out on track. So he might be in the free and clear, and he doesn't improve. Probably won't need to anyways from this point. And then we've got Billy Smith, who is in that 7th spot that I mentioned a little bit earlier, has his lap deleted. So last drivers coming through on these flying laps are not looking like many have much speed at the very end of this qualifying session, despite quite a bit of cloud cover, it seems, here today in Wisconsin. And a 49.7 is not going to do it for Dornenberg, who was the next across the line. Then we've got Nikhil Kopkar in 10th position in the number 4. He needs to make up just 0.04 of a second. He gets a 49.5, and that is not going to do it. It improves him by 0.02 of a second. Paul Gibson, though, managed to take the front row away from Fiallo and is now into second place. That will do it, Bill, and that means we are set for the grid here for the third round in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Why don't we head through the first of our classes here up at the top of the field with the prototypes. Nathan Olson will be starting on the pole, as we mentioned, with Gibson actually beside him, and it was about 0.112 of a second between them. Fialo was 17 thousandths actually off of Gibson to take third, with Ooms another 9 thousandths away back there in fourth place. Go only 33 thousandths away for Paul Darling for fifth, and Nice 52 more thousandths away in sixth. It is extremely tight from second down to sixth place. It is only about just over a tenth of a second between them all. Grutelski will be starting in seventh as Billy Smith starts in P8. Then it's Carter Kundinger in ninth, and Kopkar will round out your top 10. In the next slide, Dornenberg will start from 11th as Leif Peterson starts 12th today. Then it's Mo Islam in 13th. Vance Bow will be P14. You've got Josh Lane in the 15th spot, followed by Eddie Layton and Robert Tinsley, as we mentioned, kind of farther down than we're used to, in 17th. Justin Kirby starts P18. Only one not to set a time in the prototypes was Chris Sherburne. And then we get into the GT Pros here, Soup.
We'll take a look at that. We got Wayne Castile down there starting in the first in that group. We go to the next slide. We got Jonathan Shirazi. He's had a great season so far. Ross Booth, the veteran behind him. Ryan Robertson and Bradley Haley, the Comet, starting in the 428. Inside the next row is Nathan June. Then you got Ed Eisenring with Ryan Waszewski. He's always in that McLaren. Fun to watch him race. Lou Schmidt, Robert Cast, and Jesse Lyons. Joe, who you got next?
After that, it is Eric Thomas starting in 12th in the GT cars, with third in the GT AMs being Paul Slavonic. After that, Christopher Pies will be in 14th. 15th goes to Young Park and Trent Brown in the 16th position. From there, Mitchell Johnson starts 17th, followed by Cameron Bidwell in 18th, and Corey Ensing 19th. Top 20 rounded out by Joey Atterbury. Ian Simon will start in the 21st position. You've got 22nd going to Scott Angelo. Tom Hammond will be 23rd, followed by Matthew Gosh. Next to him, you've got Andrew Lunsford starting in the 25th spot, and then J.R. Gregory after that. It's Jimbo Pfeiffer in the 27th spot, 46th overall, and David Shutt will be 47th overall, starting in the 28th position. You've got Nick Davis then coming up, and Jason Iverson flanking him. Sheldon Rosenbaum, 50th overall, but 31st in class, in the GT class, actually, I should say. Mark Kudrowski's up next, as we're down into mostly AMs from here. Shane Hunter with Matt Scherf. After that, then it's Chad Dickin, 35th. Followed by Dale Green. Boyd Payne will start in 37th. 38th will be Dean Kerr. Jake Hickson is followed by Shane Reese, and Chad Nobles rounds out 60 cars out here today. An absolutely full field once again. And they do line up with a short pace lap, thank goodness here, Bill, just outside of Bill Mitchell Bend. So it's going to be a short warm-up, and then they're chucked right into this thing.
Indeed. Luckily, we don't have to go all the way around, as 4 miles would, we'd have to get the bosses to pay us more.
Yeah, exactly. And looks like they just about have everybody gridded up here and ready to go. They are in the midst of their drivers meeting here before the race as well. They're getting a little talking from the race control, make sure everybody understood how this all should work, even though most of the drivers here are regulars at this point and have been with the series for multiple seasons. But good to always have that refresher. And we'll see how they can fare from this point. Now, what's interesting is that both Jeffrey Ooms and Ross Booth in that GTP and prototype class have both taken the wins so far in our first two races in those classes. But as I mentioned, it's been a bit of a mix-up down with Robert Rattray winning the first race at Daytona. And then it's Matthew Gosh, who came in on his very first race in the Autobahn series, taking a win back at the Red Bull Ring. So That one is a little bit more mixed up, especially considering Rattray finished 10th and yet is somehow still first in the points after that second round. However, with a 0 to his name for Matthew Gosh with the first round, since he missed on that one, he is going to wind up with only sitting, let's see, this is... I believe it's down in 8th position for him, it looks like, at this stage. So he's got a ways to go to try and make it up. But we'll see what he can do here today, trying to make his way around Road America. Looks like they've just finished up the drivers' meeting, Soup. So as we watch them now get ready to take off, let's see, do they actually have everybody out on the grid? No, they're waiting on a couple more. Looks like they are missing, looks like Gruchelski in there. And then a couple farther back, I think they've got Mitchell Johnson that needs to line up, Nathan Jew. And now they're starting to get on to the grid. So we are ready to go. And it's a good thing that they've got their way out there, because they've only got about 10 seconds left before they're going to be taking off without them anyways, and they'll have to start from pit lane. So as the drivers get ready to take off, Olsen and Gibson on that front row. What can they do down into the first corner? It's a long, long run, even with the delay of having to wait for the pace car to peel in. So the slipstream could offer those behind them a chance to try and overtake on Olsen or Gibson into the first corner. So watch out for that. There goes the pace car now. Olsen will have control after they go by the pit entry here. He can go whenever he likes as he waits to decide when he wants to get on the loud pedal. And there it is. Green flag is out, and he is on his way. It's a very good jump over Fiallo and Gibson. In fact, Fiallo is going to be able to go by the 31, and it looks like he is going to be able to get into second place down into the first corner. And almost contact a little bit farther back between Darling and Nice, but they managed to stay apart from one another. It looks like we are clean through the first corner. Now the GT cars are on their way as they come across the start-finish line, with Wayne Castile leading everybody behind him. Ross Booth is trailing solidly into second. It's a battle for third between Shirazi and Haley. Haley is not going to be able to find the space coming around the outside of turn 1. So looks like he is going to be able to hold on to that one as they now get mostly single file at the front of the pack down into turn 3 and start heading down the Moraine sweep. So it's good to see a nice clean start here at both of our classes. And in fact, already coming down through the hurry downs, our prototypes have gotten through much of the danger zones without what looks like any major incidents. What about here for the GT Pros? A little bit of side-to-side contact. There is Shirazi and Booth trying to sort out second place. Booth is going to be able to come out ahead. A punch from behind. That was Robertson, unfortunately breaking a little late for Shirazi, but they both get away with it. Thank goodness for that one. Looks like they are able to survive once again down through the hurry downs. Long plunge here. Huge elevation change into this turn 8 corner, and then they swing around out through the carousel. Up at the top of the field, Nathan Olsen still leads the way as he completes lap 1 over Fiallo. It is Gibson in third. Behind them, and Jeffrey Ooms looks like he might be under threat. There he is on screen right now as, no, excuse me, that's actually Gibson under threat there in that third position. That's Ooms chasing him as they come into the braking zone of turn 1, and it looks like he's not quite close enough as we now hop on board to Jeffrey Ooms. This is going to be a good opportunity for him to try and get some slipstream down through the Moraine sweep out of turn 3 as we continue to watch from the roof cam. Doesn't look like he's quite close enough. And as they come into the braking of turn 5, no, we're not going to see a pass attempt this time. Trying to open up that exit as much as he can. Behind them, there you can see a lot of action between Gruchelski and Smith. This is for the 8th position. And Smith around the outside, maybe, no, he's one on the inside there into 6, outside of 7 though. And he is not going to be able to hold on And unfortunately, he's very slow because of the compromised line. Carter Kundinger diving back and forth, trying to find an opening. Nothing doing from there. So no change in position amongst those cars. But boy, it is staying spicy here in the mid-pack of our prototypes. Down through the carousel as we fly through the kink and into the kettle bottoms. We come back now to our GT Pro class, and up at the front, Castile comes around through turn 7 into the hurry downs. Booth has lost ground by about a second behind him. John Shirazi sits in third, being chased by Bradley Haley. They swing around the carousel as well. Top 4 kind of break it away, honestly. It's about a second down to Robertson, who sits in 5th. Remember, he had contact with the back of Shirazi. Wonder if he's losing a little straight line speed because of that on the front of that Ferrari. But it's an even bigger gap there from first to second. As you can see, the purple machine of Castile has about 1.3 seconds. And we jump a little bit behind him down for that battle for P2. Booth leading Shirazi, leading Haley out of Canada corner. Nobody close enough this time for them to try and make an attempt. As they come out of Bill Mitchell Bend onto the front stretch. This is looking good for Shirazi. Wonder if he'll be able to do anything up the front stretch here. He'll get a bit of a toe, but didn't look like the exit I think he needed. The 66 just unable to get quite as close as he wants to put the pressure on to the 03 behind them. Diving down to the inside to defend. Wasilewski trying to break the slipstream. And then behind them, you can see a few cars diving around as well. Wasilewski not able to break away from Cass there in front of them. Look at that. That is Jew on Robertson. Let's watch this down the Moraine sweep. Let's see if he's got enough to try and pull away, or if he really is hurting from a lack of straight line speed. It does look very good from Nathan as he pulls in behind. Does he try and make a move down into turn 5? He's going to poke his nose out, looks for the inside at the apex, is able to take it away, gives enough space as he tries to come back on from the curbing there, and Robertson is back behind him. So he loses the spot to Jew, and it doesn't look like he's terribly happy in these early stages of the race. So maybe he'll have to try and take an early pit stop and get that fixed, because I'm certain that he's not going to be having a terribly fun time trying to deal with that all race long and being slow down these long straights, which are a defining feature here at Road America. Haven't really missed much up in the prototypes at this point. No real changes there. I do believe that Kundinger maybe lost a spot to Billy Smith at one point. No, I guess he's still in the same position. So no change on those two. However, Gruchelski in 6th in the prototypes. Oh, and Kundinger just had a problem. Kundinger just went off, actually. The 02 looks like he went a little deep down into turn 5. As there he is now as he comes out of turn 6. Just overshot the corner. He's going to fall to 14th because of that. He was in, I think, 9th before, so a 5 position loss in the early days is going to be a little bit painful for him. We're only 7 minutes in, and it looks like the drivers are already settling in quite quickly. We've seen a couple battles, but frankly, this is looking for, especially for an Autobahn race, this is relatively calm. Oh, I think Gruchelski is on the fight with Darling now. He was side by side with Smith before, and there you can see them coming up to Bill Mitchell Bend. Darling holds him off, and Gruchelski has to back down out of that left-hander. Now onto the front stretch. Here we go again, but Smith is a lot closer. The this is going to be a good opportunity for maybe them going 3 wide. We'll see if we get that sort of action as they start to pick up speed heading towards turn 1. Darling just does not have the straight line speed here. Oh, but a bump draft. Gruchelski trying to get underneath the rear wing and give him an extra little shove, but it doesn't seem to have allowed them to pull away from Billy Smith maybe as much as they would have wanted. And I'm joined in the booth by Michael Johnson. Michael, it's been, as I said, a relatively clean start, it seems, but these guys employing some interesting tactics here in the LMP2s.
Well, yeah, these things really are tanks. When you look at it, when you race these things, not just in real life, but also here in the sim, they are so fortified. It seems like you can get away with a lot of contact up to a certain point, and sometimes you have frenemy kind of situation going on where I'm gonna help you for now, we're gonna battle later, but now let's work together and catch this guy, and if I need to push you a little bit, okay, that's what we're gonna do on this time.
Well, that time by, Gruchelski did get the spot down into turn 5 on Darling, so that's up to P6 for him. That's just 1 position gained. Not many drivers who have more than that. In fact, none of them have more than 2 positions gained here in the prototypes at this stage. So it looks like despite passing usually not being an issue at this track, it's looking kind of difficult for our fastest class. They haven't caught up to the traffic yet. No, actually, as I say that, Olsen's just caught up to the back of the GT Am field. So this might be what shakes things up now, Michael. Up along the front stretch here, Olsen picking his way by a number of them, but he's starting to see some side-by-side battles. In fact, look behind him there. That is going to be Gibson overtaking Fialo for 2nd place. And, oh, he's almost through. Oh, but he's getting a little hit from the side. Hip check keeps him on track, at least for now. But things getting scary, and unfortunately, he takes the apex away from Dean Kerr, and that's the car that you see sliding off in the purple machine. And he is going to be able to return without hitting anything, but loses a lot of spots. My goodness, it is getting frantic. Oh no, and another big off as the car's actually hit this time. That's Jake Hickson. That was down the straightaway. That was bizarre. And then somebody's off to the side. There's a Ferrari pointing the wrong way there. Didn't quite catch who that was, but I do know that Hickson in the 16 car actually got hit by one of our prototypes on the Moraine Sweep. That is not going to go down well, I'm sure, with the stewards. Post-race, somebody else having a spin as they run out of room on the entry down into turn 8. Well, I said that we had a calm start and throw that all out the window because suddenly it is just shifted back to chaos here, Michael, now that we've hit the lap traffic.
Yeah, lap traffic, again, it just brings out the best and worst in the drivers. You're either going to make it through it well or not. I mean, you'll see threading the needle, and if everyone is working well together and aware of their surroundings, it works fine. But sometimes you get so caught up in the race that you're in that when somebody else catches up to you, man, it's just a nightmare.
So still using this well is Olsen as he goes by yet more of the cars. I believe we've got a little time here to take a look at what happened to Hickson since we didn't quite catch it on screen. And this looks like it involves that. Ooh, so he's had more problems. And yeah, it's just side-to-side contact there. Thankfully, as he drifted across the track, Hickson didn't hit anybody. Now, what happened to Kundinger here? He's down in 17th now. Oh, he had contact with GT cars as well into the final corner, and that shoved him off course.
Yeah, it looked like he was caught up in a little bit of a battle there, trying to get around the outside, and just didn't quite work because someone else was on the inside. So 3 wide into that corner. I don't care if you're in go-karts, that does not work. We'll take a look here at the replay as they work their way through. Watch this. He just sticks that nose out, tries to go around the outside, not gonna happen.
Wow, that Ferrari's got to feel pretty lucky that he didn't get sent around with that touch, but it did not work out well for Kundinger, and it looks like his teammate down in the GT class as well, who kind of followed him off in sympathy, but I don't think he had any contact himself. Trying to see who that is we're looking at here. That's the 60 of Jason Iverson. He's actually, no, he's not a lap down from his own class. That's just from the overall leaders. So back up to the top. The 32 has been at the front since the very beginning of this race, and he's just about through most of the GT field at this stage. I'm sure he'll be happy to get back to some clear air, but man, has he been making fantastic use of it. He's up to 4.5 seconds over Fialo in second place. Oh, we've had a problem for Paul Darling now. Paul Darling, who's been on both podiums in the prototypes, is suddenly off course in Canada corner. And I think this was just himself getting caught out by cars slowing a little more than he expected. In fact, he almost ran into Billy Smith, I believe.
Yeah, taking a look at it, it's just, ooh, and that was a nice avoidance maneuver there. Prototype coming around had a little bit of a sideways action from one of the GT cars. Whew. Good heads-up driving, trying to get around there.
Well, like I said, it is suddenly really exploded. Oh, and now Paul Gibson is off track in the 31. This is in turn 1. And he had a little bit of help, I think, slight contact with Jeffrey Ooms. So that was one of our top 10 drivers there that had that issue. And yet more of them off course there in turn 3. Trying to make out who this is. That is Jimbo Pfeiffer. That's the 00.
Yeah, off in that McLaren there. Just, I hate to see that. The McLarens, not a lot of people are driving them, but I think the way iRacing has done the BOP here, and with all the GT class, the McLaren is a drivable and very capable car. So I'd like to see personally more people driving it. I just like the McLaren in general.
Same here. I'm a big fan of it, and it is a little bit old. It's the first GT3 car that came onto iRacing, and obviously we'd love to see the newer McLarens on here, but I still appreciate what they've got. It does look like that car's pretty damaged. He's way off the pace and trying to stay out of everybody's way, so I suspect we're going to see him in the pit lane a little bit ahead of schedule.
Yeah,
here.
that fax machine's not sending data properly, that's for sure. When that car first came out, the MP412C, we all called it the fax machine because that's what it sounded like.
Meanwhile, my goodness, look at this. Oh, it's a traffic jam up through Bill Mitchell Bend for some more of our prototypes. I think that's Vance Bow, and he's also got Kundinger right behind him, who is on a recovery drive. Paul Gibson, who's also trying to come back from his incident. He's going to get to the inside, but watch out, because up ahead of them, there's some slow cars that are kind of drifting in the middle of the track. In fact, there's some 2 wide. They're finally going to get single file just as they get to the braking. 3 wide into there, and poor Mitchell Johnson is off the track because of it. I think he's going to avoid hitting anything as long as he's clean back on. And yeah, he's found some space, but he just got the slightest of nudges that sent him into the gravel.
Yeah, and that spot of the track, in real life, it's paved all the way out there, but even with the gravel, the way iRacing has done this, you still have a good long way to go before you get into any serious trouble. So it's rare to run into too much of an issue at turn 1 like that.
Indeed. So about a quarter of the way through at this point, and now really things are kicking up a notch, and there you can see the downforce around the outside of one of our cars, Castile, there, as he lets go of Nikhil Kopkar, who's up to 7th now, 3 positions gained. Looks like you didn't need to gain those spots early on, as I talked about how they only saw the most of 2 positions gained amongst the fields. And it was completely turned on its head just by the traffic kind of splitting things up. Although Castile starts to go off, he catches it before he spins across the track. That could have been disaster if he spun in front of Dornenberg there.
Yeah, disaster is easy to find at this track. There are so many fast corners. You got to use every last little bit of track, and you can't touch too much grass on this track. Some tracks, you get away with a little bit of it, but man, other times you just, So this is one of those tracks you can get away with a little bit, but not a lot. So I think he turned out pretty lucky there.
Behind them, I'm watching Nathan Haley Bradley Haley and Nathan Ju fighting for 4th position here. And it does look like Nathan's kind of content to sit back. I wonder if this is him maybe trying to save a bit before we get to the pit stops here in about 12 minutes.
Not a bad idea. I mean, if you want to keep that pit stop just a little bit shorter, even if you go in at the same time as the person in front of you, as long as you're saving fuel, and you might have a gallon less or so to put in to make it to the end, if you're fuel saving properly, that's a lot less time you spend. Probably a good half second, depending on the fuel rate on your particular car. So it's a whole lot easier to make up that half second in the pit stop than it is on the track.
And of course, they always go and prove me wrong. As soon as I float the idea, Ju just went by Haley like he was standing still. So that was an easy overtake for him. They've still got Vance bowing there. Look at that dive from Lane coming in from behind and wanting to make sure that he doesn't lose touch with Vance in that 90 in front of him. He's also trying to run away from Gibson.
And Bao had just gotten around Lane as well, and Gibson's now coming through. I'm wondering if something's up with Joshua's car. He may have had maybe a little bit too much tire wear going on or something, or just got caught up in traffic. I was trying to keep an eye on that and on the other stuff we were watching on screen, but knowing what he's been doing up to now, there's a chance he could come back through. He's got some pretty good lap times, but yeah, it's going to be a challenge, I think, to do that if he loses touch and gets out of that slipstream.
Yeah, that seems like a real lack of pace. So I think you might be right that he maybe got involved in something and something's wrong with the car here. He's still quicker than these GT cars, so I guess that's a bonus for him because he can at least make his way past in the traffic, at least for the time being. Hearing that we might have had something happen to the 115 here. I'm double checking to see if I can dig that one up. See if I can find what happened to him. That would be Jesse
Meanwhile,
Lyon.
there's a prototype off there. Had a little bit of trouble. That one right there on your screen. Big issue coming out of the final corner. Almost collected a couple of GT cars coming up behind him. He was coming so slow back onto the track.
Looks like Lyon's going to be one of our first victims of the kink. He had a pretty big hit with the wall, so that's why he was having an issue. He's actually still in 13th, and I think that's even in the pro class. Our leader in the AM class right now looks to be Luke Schmidt, I believe. But Jesse Lyon, kind of amazed that he's still running as well as he is at this stage. There he is on your screen. Oh, but look at the hood of the car. It's gone, so he must have hit the front there down spinning about at the kink.
Yeah, the kink is one of those spots. Whenever I'm at this track and we're setting the car up, we try to set the car up to be flat through the kink. That you can really maintain a good lap time. But some people don't follow that advice. They want to find some speed in other spots, and they go for a little lift at the kink. I find it to be a bad idea personally, because I know how much time you can lose by not lifting properly, maybe lifting a little bit too much. And if you just go through there flat out, well, it makes it a whole lot easier. Not any less scary though.
I think here we've got the wreck. And he was put offline. That's what it was.
Oh, and that rear end came out. Yeah. Oh, that's not fun. Yeah, and if he's in VR, he's got to be dizzy right now.
Have you ever had a wreck in the kink in real life in your career?
No, I've always driven the kink perfectly. Never made a single mistake ever. Not once. No, never happened. I've never wrecked, but I've had some very Code Brown moments for sure.
I was going to say, because that was going to be my follow-up question, is what the experience is like, because it looks terrifying to me.
Interclass, yeah. When you've got a faster class coming through, and let's say you're in the middle of a three-way run for first, and then a car that's a good 20 miles per hour faster comes through and just stands on the brakes and takes out your teammate and current P2, yeah, that's not a fun position to be in.
Well, As we come back live now with our battles in the prototypes. This looks like Gruchelski being chased by Smith, being chased by Nice. So this is all for 4th position, and they at least have a brief respite from the traffic until they catch it up again, which, based on the timing that we saw, looks like they're going to see about 3 or 4 times having to go back through that field. So they're not done with it by any stretch of the imagination. The question is, who can use it to their advantage?
Yeah, the speeds these guys are going to see down this straightaway, though, especially right there, it's just tucked up under. It's almost like when you're watching F1 and you see that DRS laid up and they take off. You close up so much, but that straightaway is just insanely fast, even though it starts with an uphill.
Yeah, and it's a very steep uphill. They just have such immense power in these things, but they are dipping wheels almost every corner at this stage. Nice following Smith. If he gets him on a good run eventually, he's going to maybe have a good chance at trying to attack. We could see it here down into turn 5 if he's brave. He sends it in. Nope, he's a little too hard. In fact, he's going to miss the corner as we ride on board. He's appreciative for that runoff, no doubt, but he loses time as he gets back on track about a 1.5 seconds back. Can only do that so much. They have a 24 incident limit here, Michael, and then it's a complete disqualification. It's not a penalty. You're out.
Yeah, and I like to tell people, when you're doing a regular iRacing race, you really need to be careful with those incident points. But when you're in a league like this and you've got 24 before you're out, if you haven't used 22 or 23 by the end of the race, you're not pushing hard enough. You've got to take them all. Oh boy.
Wow. Getting side by side and squeezing his rival out. Gruchelski does not want to give up 4th. That slowed up Nice enough that now, or Billy Smith enough that Nice is now with him and unable to take the place down in a can of corner, though. They go through Bill Mitchell Bend. Oh, and things are, talk about karma. Gruchelski is shoved off by a GT car. Was that actually the leader, though? No, it was not. That was Dane Kerr that kind of sent him off course. So now that's 2 positions in just a couple corners for Billy Smith.
Oh, that's heartbreaking to see. Interclass racing brings that, though. You've got to really be aware of who's around you and what class they're in. Now, when you have, like we've seen amateur versus pro level drivers in the GT class, sometimes that's a little harder to tell, but you should know when a prototype is there. But conversely, if you're in the prototype, you cannot push too hard. You need to know where those GT cars are going to be braking. You need to know how fast they're going to go through certain corners. Yeah, you're going to be faster in a sweeper.
Whoa! Whoa, sorry. Nikhil Kopkar has obliterated Nice down into turn 5. Whoa, and he finds a landmine somehow in the process. I saw Kopkar coming in, and I thought, wow, what is he? Is he lapping them or something? And then I realized, no, he's just completely outbraked himself. And the 14 was the unfortunate victim in this situation. I'm sorry, Michael.
No, I had this exact same thing in my preview monitor, watching over there, just to say I can call over to something else, because we do that for the viewers, so we can get you the exciting action. But man, I saw the exact same thing you did just as it was happening.
Wow. That was another unexpected little twist in this one. And the irony of all this, Michael, is that Soup made the quip that after we had a relatively clean race at one of the shortest tracks over with, shortest laps really, over with the Red Bull Ring, he said, wouldn't it be a great irony if we suddenly had one of the more wild ones here at the longest track where they have space to stretch out?
Yeah, to be fair, turn 5 is tough because as you're coming down, you go under the Sorrento Cheese Bridge and you kind of work your way back around. You cannot see your braking markers. And if you get distracted just briefly and look back and see that brake marker go whizzing by, you're kind of in a bad position because it's downhill and very fast.
You're up a certain paddle. or up a certain creek without a paddle, actually.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, there we go. This, in the meantime, is the battle for second place. This is Ross Booth being chased by Shirazi and Nathan Ju here. They've left Bradley Haley well behind, as Nathan was running behind him for a while, but we're starting to approach the halfway mark, so we should be, actually, I think we're into the pit window at this stage with about 33 minutes left to go. So if you're Nathan Ju, do you maybe try and jump out, or you stick with them all the way to the end of the tank?
Well, you got to kind of decide for yourself. It's hard to sit back here in the announce booth and know what's going on. Is he driving to the absolute limit, or does he have a little bit left over? What we've seen from Ju before, I think he's got a little left over, but I got to say, Shirazi's no slouch either. And this is a nice little cluster of cars we have right here. So I hate to call that one and say one way or the other.
Not seeing anybody poke their nose out. Let's see what kind of run they get out of turn 3, and that might be a bit more informative, because if any of them just kind of sit back and let it stay in line here, then they might still be trying to fuel save all the way to the end of it, because Ju has a pretty okay run. He could try something, and not seeing any motion to try and pop his nose out. So yeah, he's going to stay in line. That's going to give us a quick chance to go to a short break here on FTF.GG. We'll come back after this short message. Welcome back to Road America here for round 3 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you can see we've got some prototypes in pit lane. Dan Neese, Paul Gibson, Christopher Sherburne. Nope, Sherburne stayed out, excuse me. Vance Bow is in. Robert Tinsey, Ed Layton, and Josh Lane. Also, Chris Pies from the GT class, the GT Pros, is in, but he's essentially the only one of the GT cars that has pitted. Nathan Olson is your leader in the prototypes. Wayne Castile leads GT Pros. And then down in the AMs, it is still Luke Schmidt leading that lowest of classes here. We're down to 29 minutes left to go. I'm Joe Peak. With me is Michael Johnson here this evening. And it has really gone haywire here during this part of the race. The first 10 minutes were relatively calm, and there's a good example right there coming through the final corner, as that was Jeffrey Ooms having to slide inside of Shirazi on his chase, trying to keep up with Fialo, as they are now going to be the battle for the lead instead of second place, because Olsen has just pitted in. And indeed, it looks like Ooms, well, I thought he was going to give a try there, Michael, but no dice. He'll sit behind.
Yeah, this track really lends itself to aggression. I'm not exactly sure why. I've tried to figure it out. It happens to me even, and I'm one of the most level-headed drivers I know. I always tell people, be really calm. You can't just let it go crazy. You gotta hold back a little bit in reserve, especially at a track that's as fast as we look, peeking up the inside, goes into the braking zone into turn 5, makes that turn nice and easy. Like, that's the way you do it. Just cool head, let that pass come to you. But we got an opportunity for repass here as we watch him go through. Oh, little sideways. Man, that's going to cost him some time. Now protects that inside, holding onto it. Oh, and a little bit of contact as we try to make that cut back over. Good defense, interesting defense. Difficult when you get into those positions with that wiggly tail, especially on these prototypes, the way they handle that wiggle.
I can't believe that Ooms still has the lead after that wobble coming out of turn 6, because I would have thought Fiala would go on by, but I guess maybe he lifted just to play it safe. Remember, Ooms won the first 2 rounds, but he's sitting in second once we get the pit stops, we believe. He wasn't close to our leader Olsen before he ducked in. So yes, Ooms is leading right now, but he's going to have to relinquish this most likely unless something drastic happens down to Nathan in the 32. So let's see if they pit in this time now with 26 minutes left to go. This should be the end of the pit window. And there you go, Michael. They're headed in.
Yeah, for their roughly 60-second pit stop, somewhere between 58 and 62 seconds to run through there. Nice little spin turn from Matt Gosh there, just timing it just right. I can't do that well in the GT cars. I can handle it in the prototypes, but when I try to do those little spin turns and just put the nose in the right place, he completely showed me up there. But he's got a meatball flag, so he's going to have to come in and get that fixed.
Let me see if I can find out how this happened. Ooh, I think he may have done it, getting hit here by Matt Scherf. So he's fine coming into turn 5, but there's a car trying to back up onto the track. He just gets clipped. That could have done it, or this, where he pounds it into the concrete.
That wall is very hard. It is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
I have friends who have hit that one. And the bridge right here, coming up right there, the Corvette bridge. I've had a few friends hit that one, and one actually had to go into surgery for it.
Oh, geez. That does not sound like a fun time. Well, what this will mean is that he's not going to take a repeat win, most likely, for this race, as he won the last round. And Ooms is going way down the order. Ooms is in long.
He's a minute 20 so far.
He's got a black flag. He was speeding in pit lane.
That'll do it. That'll end your race for you. Put you way down the list.
Well, we're likely not going to have a repeat winner in the prototypes as well now, as Ooms returns 13th position. Ouch. That was a costly mistake, and Fialo's loving it. He's now in the clear in second place. No one behind, no one ahead. Yeah,
I think it was probably from Ooms thinking, if I can just push that extra little bit and I can make a 50. Whoa, as we watch almost contact with the grass there, trying to avoid the GT car, but trying to think about, hey, can I push that extra little meter going into the into the pit entry and save a 1/10 of a second? Well, ends up costing him an extra good chunk of time with that penalty on pit lane speed.
This is Olsen, who's returned to the top spot, about 4 seconds ahead of Dion Fialo right now. 25 minutes left to go. We have lost a number of cars. We're down to only 50 left. I might actually be less than that, because I do see some cars in taking repairs. It depends on if they can get back out in time. And somebody back there ducking in. That looks like David Schutt and Joey Atterbury. And this is scheduled stops, it does appear, for these drivers as they go towards their stalls. We're waiting on about the top 10 or so in the GT Pros to be pitting in. But we got a battle here coming down into turn 5 between two Porsches, but no change of position. This is for second place.
Yeah, second place here, that's going to be Booth and Ju, I believe. Yep, going at it. Man, these guys have been going at it hammer and tongs here. Nice little nose to tail action. Get just close enough to get a little bit of help, maybe use a little less fuel by being in that big giant hole that these Porsches put into the air. But maybe make that run. So right now we're watching him go through this long right-hander, setting up for that run through the kink and down to Canada corner. But then he's got a great opportunity to pass as they go through the little technical section there right before turn, I always want to call it turn 17. It's turn 14, which is that final corner.
Yeah, coming down through the kettle bottoms. Will we see a defense from Booth? No, and Ju doesn't even attack either. As they come down through Canada corner, will we see these two now pit in? This is, man, Nathan is really right in that rear wing. So I suspect, and we've seen him do this a lot here today, that he's going to have a little bit of a short stop, having saved some in that slipstream. Here we go. Will they come in this time? Yes, both of them all the way down, committing early. And Castile in front of them is also in. So there's your podium positions onto the lane.
Yeah, and it's a little bit scary to be in Nathan Ju's position there as you're coming into that pit lane. The cone is very difficult to see, so you've got to practice that and hope the guy in front of you has practiced it too, and you have about the same braking point as you're rolling up in there.
All right, so looks like this is the end of that pit window since many are following them. So most of the GT cars following that traditional strategy of pitting as soon as they are out of fuel. Some of them emerge. It doesn't look like there's any change. Yeah, Castile. No, I take that back. Ju had a slightly shorter stop as we expected and has jumped Ross Booth, but he hasn't really left him behind now that they start to pick up the gas. So it should be possible for that 03 to catch back up to Nathan here on this stint.
But we do have some prototype action happening here as well. These guys are trying to get through. They've got a race of their own. Now, for the viewers out there, remember, you've got a race going on. You're not the only one out there. There are other races, especially in multi-class racing. So just because you've got your racing happening and you're in a faster class, you've got to respect the other guys that are out there and know that they've got a race going on as well.
Absolutely, and as they kick up the dirt coming out of turn 5, Darling back up to 4th place. Remember, he was way down the order after he went off course a little bit earlier in this thing, so this is a fantastic run through the field for him. And Dan Neese going to try and get back into there with Dornenberg and Kundinger directly behind. You'll see a flash of them. They're nose to tail there in that 913 and the 02. Running just about, let's see, 6th and 7th place, it appears. And there they are on screen now. In fact, is that Gibson behind them? Yes, that is. So, man, it's actually relatively close from 4th, probably all the way down to about 8th place here. So we could see some changes. Kundinger just trying to keep a hassle on Dornenberg for now. Doesn't attack him down to Canada corner this time, but see if those positions change around later.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep an eye on some stuff going back in the GT field as well. It looks like we got Hammond here on screen trying to work his way through some of that GT AM traffic. So Hammond is in the pro class, and that's going to be Nick Davis in front of him. So Nick Davis is in the AM class, so he's going to have to try to tuck up under that wing and make hay while the sun shines. He's actually opened up just a little bit. He was a good bit closer, maybe having some issues with his car. It doesn't look like he's using all the track as I watch him try to work through here. So there could be some issue with that car at this point.
And this is actually a battle for second in the AM class right here. Trent Brown versus Nicholas Davis. So that's Nicholas in the white and blue Porsche, and that's Trent in the red and black BMW. So there's some definite implications on this one. I need to double check the points here. Yeah, Trent Brown's third in the points, so this second place actually would be pretty handy for him. In fact, it might put him into the points lead because Davis is ahead of him in the points.
Uh-oh.
No, he's tied for points. Whoa, who is this stuck in the barrier?
Ooh, that's pretty rough. That's not a good way to try to make the way around the track. And that's going to be our 22nd place car in class, which is I want to say Wachelski.
So that was Chad Dick in the right there on screen right now, and it was Shane Hunter who was lodged into the tires and got stuck. This all started with Jesse Lyon and Mark Kudrowski actually. Down, and there you see it, the big incident right there. And unfortunately, coming upon the scene of the accident, couldn't avoid it. Oh, wow. Oh, God, you got to feel for him. Poor Shane.
He did everything right, just threading the needle going through there. And this
What
looks
in
like
the world?
Yeah, this is like a movie, Fast and Furious or something. This is kind of crazy. That seems almost like an equipment failure, like somebody's wheelbase died on them or something.
That is an utterly bizarre incident. So, yeah, okay, we're watching on board. Yeah, he's fine.
See
he's
right
fine.
there, he's just kind of straight. I think that's an equipment failure. I think a wheelbase might have gone out on that one.
Yeah, you're probably right. And yeah, with the lack of control, those coming along at such speeds really didn't anticipate he would drift right across the track like that. And well, you see the results, and took out a lot of cars on that one. Boy, we got a good battle between Gibson and Kundinger now, and it looks like Kundinger's going to come out ahead of it in 7th place in the prototype. So Gibson gets mugged and falls down into 8th position. There you can see, remember, he was right on top of his teammate earlier, Dornenberg, and has suddenly fallen back. So the 0-2, actually, no, Gibson was on the attack. I take that back. Gibson was behind him. So that was a failed pass attempt right there.
Ooh, that's always frustrating if you're trying to make a pass. So just a little advice out there, a little coaching advice. The pass has to come to you. If you're trying to force the pass, it's probably not going to work. And it's definitely going to mess both of you up. But if you let that pass come to you, let it evolve. The pass happens on the straight, not once you get into that braking zone. So yeah, be patient and let the pass come to you.
All right. Well, in front of Kundinger, though, that's Dornenberg chasing Dan Neese. This is for 5th in the prototype class. Scott Angelo does the right thing and just holds his racing line coming out of the corner. But this still gives a fantastic run to the 913 as he goes off to the left-hand side. Dan Neese can't do much despite him defending down the middle of the racetrack, and Dornenberg is already passed by the braking zone.
Yeah, get just a good run out of there. You've got some draft. We had that GT car. You got a good little start coming off that corner. That'll help you make that pass by the end of the straightaway. And that turn is so fast. Everybody who goes there overbrakes the first time. Now, I'm not saying these guys are overbraking, but it's very common to overbrake when you go into that corner.
Ooh, is Neese slow maybe? He just got overtaken by Kundinger very easily and almost gets run into by Gibson. And watch behind them. See if there he is, a little flash in the corner of the screen. That was Jeffrey Ooms. Remember, he came out in 13th. He's up to 9th, and he has been slicing through the field, and he's got a whole bunch of other cars for position now in front of him.
And he's only 6/10. His last lap is only 6/10 slower than his fastest lap. So he's really making time right now, trying to burn some of that fuel off, having just come out of the pits. But tires should be in good shape. Track conditions are still really good. You see that overcast sky, so it's not going to be too hot on the track surface. So he's got a good opportunity to make the rest of the way back up the field and maybe even get into a podium position.
Kundinger gets another chance on Dornenberg. He breaks deep down into Canada corner, but the over-under for Dominic allows him to get back side by side. I wouldn't suggest staying this way down for Bill Mitchell Bend, and indeed, Dominic decides to lift, but he might find himself with a chance going by Kundinger, as that's Mitchell Johnson. No, won't open the door. Or will it? He's now got the run down the front stretch once again. No, he's going to work together with his teammate. That makes sense. He's going to bump draft him.
Yeah, a little bump draft here. Like I was saying before, you can get away with some of that in these cars. They are absolute tanks for the most part. There are some hits that'll turn you a little sideways and break bits and pieces off the car. But something like that, these cars actually like it in iRacing. I don't recommend doing it in real life, though.
All right, coming down the Moraine sweep now, and you can see that Ooms is a lot closer. He's already caught up to Nice, but I could see Gibson maybe trying something because he's been very deep on the brakes a lot of times into turn 5. He's not this time. He's just going to hold back a little bit. They've got Boyd Payne in front of them. Thankfully, at least 2 will get by before turn 6. He holds way off the racing line, sees this veritable string of LMP2s coming through, and wants no part of it, lets them all pass. Same deal here as they go by Lunsford, and once again, first 2 are going to be able to get through. Oh, but Lunsford spins across. That's Ooms. Both Ooms and Peterson smash into the GT car, and I wonder if that's going to end that run for Jeffrey Ooms. Oh, he's in the wall. Yep, that definitely ends the run for the 3.
Yeah, he's going to have to take a tow on that one. That's going to be more than one of these tanks can handle, because it's just, wow, that's tough. That he was doing such a good job coming back through the field, and then something like that happens. I can't really fault the GT driver too much. There was a long line of prototypes coming through, and he was trying to do the right thing. Had he taken his driving line, his racing line, it would have messed everyone up. But he just got too far out. Very easy to do right there. That's turn 8, and as you're coming through there, you can just catch a little bit too much of the dirt on the outside, and man, you're not going to have a good day.
Man, just a real shame to see. And yeah, here's the initial incident as he stays to the outside a little too wide, like you said. And I mean, yeah, the drivers coming in really didn't have much time to react to trying to avoid that spinning car. So Ooms now the latest retirement out there. Oh, and a problem for Joey Atterbury down in turn 5. Self-spin, it looks like, so nothing too dramatic on that 51. He's down to 18th in the GT class. Not sure where he is within class because he's in the pros. I think he's currently running about 15th or so in that class. Meanwhile, we got to go back to the battle up at the top of the GT pros here, Michael, because, well, I didn't expect that Castile would be under threat, but Nathan has proved me wrong.
It looks like Wayne Castile is really slow right now. I'm thinking he may have gotten maybe a course cut penalty or something. But here we go, coming down into turn 3, one of my favorite corners in all of racing. Get the power down just right here and use every last millimeter of that, and that little touch of the gas of the dirt there at the tail of it. You can make a beautiful run down here, and this is fun because you've got about 4 or 5 different ways to enter this corner, and at least a dozen to come out, most of which are without touching a wall.
I wonder if this is fuel related. I wonder if Castile maybe went a little shy on it because as he goes wide coming through turn 6, still has the lead, but dipped the wheels off into the grass, still trying to push that part of it. Because
and Ross Booth is back up here. Look at that.
Wow,
if we take a look right behind, Ross Booth has caught back up. So we've got a very, very tight podium here between Castile and Jew. It's only 4/10 and another 4/10 back to Booth.
See, because I'm looking at the pit stop times here, and it's the same amount of time that Jew stopped. But we know that Nathan spent a lot of time behind somebody, but Wayne's been leading this race. So there's a good chance that he may have not put enough in there and is now suffering the consequences as they go by the lapped car of Sean Reese. And that's a good example of staying out of the way, but also being a little bit of a hassle for some of these leaders in the GT Pros. And they're going to get overtaken by Nathan Olson, our leader in the prototypes as well. Is this going to split it apart, or is it going to give an opportunity?
Well, good heads up driving there from our prototype leader. not really getting in and messing up this race going on between our GT leaders. So being very aware of who's racing around him and how much space he's got to the next car behind him. He's got about a 4-second lead over Fiallo.
So 1, 2, and 3. That's your podium right there for the GT Pros with
And part of your podium for the prototypes.
Yeah, oh, wow. Is taking some creative lines is Dion Fiallo, who's still in second place. He's not giving up hope. I think he knows that those 4 seconds he's lost to Olsen could be gained back if the traffic goes the right way there, but he just needs to really keep on it, and that he is doing. But yeah, those top 3 in the GT Pro are a lot closer than I imagined, especially because of the pace that Wayne Castile showed in the first stint before the pit stop. So does look like he's picked it up. So maybe he saved enough fuel and he's been given the go-ahead by his race engineer and said, we got to push now because they've caught us.
Yeah, he's been putting down some pretty good lap times. His last lap was a 2:04.2. Nathan Jew behind him was a 2:04.6. So they're a little bit off of their best laps. They were down right at that 2:03 mark. It's time to put the hammer down and try to pull away. Let's see if Castile can hold on to this lead. He took a big chunk out of his lead by that slowdown earlier. So now it's time to really make it happen. We've only got about 7.5 minutes left in this race.
This one's eaten up quite a few cars, honestly. We have 44 left on the track now, considering we started with 60. So it's definitely not paid much kindness to a lot of the drivers here today. Whoa, that's way off there. That was Nathan, actually, and that white 420 going far off the exit.
Yeah, he's pushing hard to try to keep up with Castile. We know Castile is very fast, but this straightaway, it did not hurt Nathan too much to be that far out into the dirt. I am surprised, but that just tells you how good a driver Nathan Jew is if he's able to hold on to it out there and catch up to Castile coming down the straight.
So the New Yorker around turn 3 and onto the Moraine sweep. We've seen him sit and ride behind before. Is he doing more of the same, waiting towards the end of the race? Or is this his maximum pressure he can apply to Wayne Castile? This is the closest he's been to turn 5 for some time. He is actually going to go for the move. I don't think he's going to get the overlap, but he is going to shake him off the racing line. So Castile is feeling a bit of the pressure now.
Yeah, Castile still holding on to it, taking his preferred line. And I think Jew is kind of playing a little bit of a head game there, going, yeah, you can go out there. I don't need to be that far out. I'm fine where I am. I'm just going to kind of shallow this corner and watch. I'm still going to tuck right up underneath your wing. So let's play with this head game.
He's going to make the 3-3-3 work for it. That is for sure. And it was Ross Booth who took the first 2 wins. He sits behind in third. Don't count him out to maybe become the only one to get a hat trick here to start the season off, especially if those 2 tangle or just simply hold each other up too much at this stage. Oh, and here is a real traffic jam once again. 3 wide into the carousel as they split one of the GT cars.
Yeah, 3 wide into the carousel works well going into it, but you've got to really sort that out before you get about a quarter of the way into that corner. You need to know where you are, and to the wall is not the place you want to be coming out of the kink.
That was Robert Cast who had that incident, and he's going to take a tow. This is Dornenberg versus Gibson. This is for 6th position right now. These 2 are really having to make some crazy moves in the midst of this traffic, knowing that it is so late in the race, and not much to the chagrin of their GT drivers, I'm certain, here in these last 5 minutes. But that's a good exit there from Gibson. Looks like he's at least gotten himself a tiny bit of breathing space.
Yeah, a little bit of breathing space, but don't expect it to last too much longer. We've still got 4.5 minutes left in this race, and as we've seen up to this point, anything can happen.
Oh boy, will it? Yeah, it's usually this is the time where things go crazy in most Autobahn Sportscar Challenge races. It's really unbelievable how it almost always happens where things fly apart. for some drivers and suddenly fall into the laps of others as we watch them come down into turn 5. This is going to be a big holdup for Gibson. Is this what Dornenberg has been waiting for? He's not close enough for turn 6, although he shows himself in the mirrors into that left-hander. Do they have any more traffic up in front? They've got Bradley Haley up next, so maybe by the time they get up towards the kink.
Yeah, if we take a look at when are they going to hit up to where these guys are up in front of them. Bradley Haley up there about halfway through the sweeper here, trying to get around there, 10 and 11, working his way down towards the kink. This will be tight. I'm going to expect some probably braking zone of Canada corner. If he can get around him before that, that would be nice. But what he really wants to happen is get that car trailing him stuck behind that GT car. Not going to happen this time, though.
No, good job by Dornenberg to be able to get to the inside of Haley. Haley's still running the top 5 right now down in that GT Pro class, for those curious. And out of Bill Mitchell-Benz, I believe this is going to be 3 laps to go this time by Olsen, is a full 50 seconds ahead of this fight for 6th position, rather, in the prototype class. There he is right there, and that is into the hurry downs.
Yeah, trying to just hold on to the edge. Nice control of the car. Look at every positioning he makes. These are very, very calculated spots to put the car. He's being ultra smooth through here. He's not actually using every last millimeter here. He's got a little bit of extra room, as we see going through the kink there. He could have gone probably about a mile an hour faster or so, 1.5, 2 kilometers an hour faster as he was working through there. Didn't need to. He's got enough of a lead that it doesn't really matter at this point.
So the laps are about 1:50 for the prototypes at the sharp end. So is he... Oh, this actually might be close. This might be the final lap. It might be 2 laps. Let's see. Because
I'm thinking 2. We've got 9 seconds to 10, 11 seconds to bleed off. Yeah, it'll be 2.
Okay, 2 laps to go here. Now, the thing is, though, this means that they do have to take into account that extra lap. When we have seen that taking wins and good positions away from certain drivers in the past here in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, because if you get it down to the exact lap of how much fuel that you need and you get that 1 extra lap, well, you're going to be boned by the end.
And it doesn't just happen in the Autobahn series. I have found myself trying to switch to like full course yellow mode on a race car, going, I'm not going to make this. We didn't plan on that many laps, and you got to put that car into full course yellow on your dial and hope you can make it the rest of the way around.
Also, Castile. Oh, Ju got the lead. When did the 420 make the pass? I'm double checking here to see if this has been recent. And it was out of turn 8 on this most recent lap. Carter Kundinger came through on Castile, got him off the racing line, and Nathan picked it up as soon as he saw it dropped on the ground. Now, with 2 laps to go, he's ahead, and that was a spin. That was a spin behind, and that's Ross Booth, I think, into Castile. That is going to be clear road for Nathan Ju at the end of the race as both of his rivals have come together.
And Dan Neese trying to go through there in turn 1 really took Booth offline and just didn't give him the room that he needed or that he was expecting. I think it kind of caught him by surprise. Now, nobody did anything wrong there. It was just caught a little bit off guard, I guess, for our former leader. Wayne Castile, or was that Booth? It was either Castile or Booth.
Castile was the former leader, yeah. Oh, and he's limping the car around. Oh, he's going to lose a ton of positions. That is gutting for the 333. He was so close to getting a win and then a podium. In fact, he has to take a tow. I don't know if we've got time for the replay. We do. It looks like Olsen just took the white flag recently, but I'd love to get a closer look as to what happened there, because all I saw was Castile suddenly lose the car and Booth get a piece of him in the process. And in fact, no, Booth's still in second place, although Shirazi is chasing him. So that was a bit of a wild one. Here's the incident. Oh, did he get help? Yeah, he got a little help, unfortunately. I would be understandably angry if I was Castile in this situation.
Yeah, I think Castillo was trying to manage that expectation a little bit, wanted to maybe sit back, save some fuel, realizing that this race was going to go an extra lap more than he had planned for. So needed that extra little time and probably had a little bit left in the tank to be able to make a run on that final lap. But we watch our leader here. This is the overall leader. This is going to be Olsen going through the kink at full tilt boogie, trying to work his way down into Canada corner for the last time, right up into that braking zone, right around that 3 marker. Just dips the nose in there, puts on the power, comes on out of there. This is going to be a nice, clean finish to this race with over 7, almost 8 seconds to second place rival.
Yes, this is a fantastic run for Nathan Olsen. Ooms may have taken the first 2, but Nathan Olsen is going to be the winner here for round 3 at Road America as he crosses the line. We've still got Nathan Ju coming around out. We also have Luke Schmidt actually right now in the number 27. He was 11th overall in the GTs, but he is our winner today in the GT AM class. Nicely done by the 27. Need to check if that is a new winner for them. Nathan coming out of the hurry downs is got a handy 6-second lead over Ross Booth, who still is being hounded by Shirazi.
Yeah, Shirazi still about a half a second off of his tail. Probably wants to see if he can take that P2 spot off of Ross Booth, knowing that Ross has probably a bit of damage from that contact that we just watched the replay on. That's the 14. The 14 is going to be Dan Neese. Dan was having some trouble earlier, but coming back to this GT race here, this is going to be an interesting run to the end as we watch Shirazi try to close this gap up. Has it down, still right at about half a second. Can he make this happen? I don't know. It's going to be tough.
But this man, Nathan Ju, is going to be our new winner, as Ross Booth is not going to be able to take victory here today. Nathan Ju takes the 420 to winner's circle at Road America. Booth still gets a second place. And if that's a bad day, then I'm sure it's going to be another potential championship in his hands if he can still get on the middle step of the podium there with a run like that. Shirazi promoted up onto the podium himself there in the 66. And is this a fight to the line? This is for 5th place, Wasilewski over Robertson. It's close for Ryan, but he's not close enough. So Ryan will beat Ryan to the line there. And then Christopher Pies finishes 7th. That's going to take us to a quick break, I believe. Let me double check on that. Yes, we're going to have a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Road America. Round 3 in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge saw Nathan Olson take the win with Dion Fiallo in second place. He was a bit behind. It was about 9 seconds, 10 seconds really between them. But Dion, honestly, I think ran an excellent race of his own. Billy Smith from 8th to take a podium here in that 9:01 was ahead of Paul Darling, who finished 4th. It was Carter Kundinger, who had a lot of action today. He finished 5th, and Dornenberg was P6. Poor Paul Gibson, after starting on the front row, just couldn't hold it together today. He wound up 7th. And here all the discouraging words that we had about Robert Tinsey. He managed to come and pull it off in the race as he went from 17th to 8th. Vance Bow was 9th today. Dan Neese was P10. And it was Lee Peterson 11th and Eddie Layton in 12th. Last of the prototypes to see the finish was Chris Sherburne, 1 lap down in 13th. Michael?
In the GT class, well, it looks like a Porsche podium today. Nathan Jew, Ross Booth, and Johan Shirazi in first, second, and third. Bradley Haley taking 4th in the Audi. Then we've got a little McLaren-Ferrari battle going along with the Ryan and Ryan show. Wasilewski and Robertson. Chris Pietz in a Porsche brings it in 20th overall. So moving on down the list here, we've got Young Park, Cameron Bidwell, David Schutt, Luke Schmidt, Eric Thomas, and actually Luke, go back to Luke here. Luke is our winner, also in a Porsche in the amateur class with Eric Thomas right behind him. Nick Davis in the amateur class, also in a Porsche, pulling out second place in the AM class. Tom Hammond in the Audi is just ahead of Joey Atterbury. Now third place in that AM class, Trent Brown in a BMW, followed closely by J.R. Gregory in the Porsche.
Then it was Ian Simon finishing 18th out of the GT cars and 5th in AM category. Eisenring 6th in the AM category, followed by Mitchell Johnson, who was 20th in the overall GT field. Dale Green finished in the 21st position. Matt Scherf, another of our AM drivers, was followed by Scott Angelo, 23rd. Then you've got Wayne Castile having to settle for 25th. He led the vast majority of this race. I'm sure he's going to be gutted with that one. Sean Reese wound up 25th, and then it was Matthew Gosh behind him in 26th position. Boyd Payne, P27, followed by Lunsford and Shane Hunter. Ooms was a DNF, Cast and Pfeiffer rounding out the field. And from there, it's all DNFs. We do have, I believe, our winner in the GT Pro category, Nathan Jew, and I'd love to hear his thoughts about this win because it looked like a very calculated one. Nathan, we saw you spend a lot of time sitting behind guys like Booth and then later behind Castile. Were you saving fuel? Was this a run of pre-planning?
I wouldn't say planning, but it just seemed like the right thing to do given where I qualified. Not being far off the front at a track like Road America is a good place to be because, I just was patient in that first stint, saved a lot of fuel, had enough to push at the end, and, worked out well.
Now, you were racing mostly with Ross there because it seemed like Castile was running away a little bit in the first half of the race. Then after the pit stops, you saved a bit of that fuel. You had a short one. You jumped up into second. Were you surprised that you caught Castile and then eventually passed him, or did you kind of expect to have that speed?
I thought we were pretty even on pace. I think, honestly, the only reason I got by him was he was a little unlucky with traffic. I tried a few moves just to kind of feel him out. He seemed pretty intent on defending, and so I thought it was going to be hard to pass him just straight up. So I just waited until something happened. Luckily, it did, and we got by.
The first not Ross Booth driver to take a win here in GT Pro. Do you see yourself giving him a challenge for the championship? Because he still took a second place, and that's impressive that on a bad day he's still on the podium.
I'm not gonna think too much about that. I mean, I'm not a GT driver by trade, and I usually do LMP2, so I'm just trying to find my feet here. But if we keep getting a few more results, like this, I'll start to think about it.
Well, Nathan, congratulations on the win. One more before you go. We've been saying Nathan Jew. Is that the correct pronunciation of
That
your
is
last name?
correct. You got it.
Woohoo,
Yeah.
all right. Good guessing on my part, honestly. Congratulations on the win.
Yep. Thanks very much. I just want to say thanks to all the boys and girls at the Blue Chew Factory. Y'all made this happen. So thank you very much.
There you go. Nathan in the 420 car taking the victory. But behind him, he was a little bit down the order in the GT class, 11th, but he was our winner in the AM category. Michael has caught up with Luke Schmidt.
Indeed, I have. Luke, congratulations on this win. You had a good about 3.5 second lead over the next car behind you, which wasn't even in your class. So how did you manage that today?
Yeah, so it started with chaos in the first couple laps, and when the LMP2s came through, it was really about dodging some of the incidents, and just happened to get through them and find myself in the lead, and led at the pit stop, and then tried to manage the gap. But I think a couple more laps, and P2 was catching pretty quick.
So tell me a little bit about the pit stop, because if I look at your stationary time, you were actually under 19 seconds. I'm showing 18.8, and everyone else was running mid 19s, 20. There were a couple at 23 seconds. Was there just a brilliant calculation you made, or fuel saving? What went on there?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in draft before the pit stop behind my teammate and behind a couple other GT cars. Saved a lot of fuel, and then I would not have made it another lap. So I cut it real close.
I know how that is. It's no different in the meat space racing. It's calculated down to the last couple of meters. You might find yourself rolling across that line. So tell me a little bit about the traffic. How did the traffic work for you? There were some incidents you had to kind of squeak through, but seemed to work out.
Yeah, and I didn't get. I seemed to manage when the LMP2 cars caught me pretty well. I got caught mostly on straightaways, just a couple of times where I got caught in an awkward place. But overall, pretty good at managing that traffic. It went really well for me. I know this track very well. I know, a lot about it. It's my home track, so it worked out real well.
Well, one of my favorite tracks to run in real life as well. Who do you have to thank for today's victory?
Well, I got to thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast, the league admin at Autobahn, and my team at Composite Performance. They helped me out a lot with setups, helped me out a lot with a little bit of coaching. Never hurts to have Ross Booth in your corner, Robert Cast, Carter, some of those guys, and Dom. They're really good at pointing out where we're making mistakes.
Well, they can point them out, but you still have to execute it. And, well, it got you to the podium today. Brilliant job, and thanks for being here to talk to us.
Thanks, guys.
And with that, I'll hand it back to Joe.
It looks like we are done with the interviews in that case. And man, what a race it was today. It's definitely your typical Autobahn fair with a lot of action out on track to keep track of and some exciting battles. But a huge thanks goes out to the team today, Michael, Soup, and Zach. And our next race is going to be at Sebring. That'll be December 5th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.